Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again for our latest Railbookers webinar, Discover the USA by Rail. My name's Sam. I'll be your host today, hopefully looking to inspire you for that next trip away, perhaps across the pond over to the USA. So before we jump into our holidays today, let's have a little look at who we are as rail bookers and start off by quickly looking at why some travelers love to book with ourselves. So, of course, first of all, we are the rail experts. We know the best routes, the schedules, the sightseeing. A lot of our travel consultants go and visit the destinations that we sell and experience the train journey. So we really do have first-hand experience to be able to pass on to you all. And of course, a lot of these train journeys can be quite complex, so you don't have to worry about piecing it all together. We package everything up for you, making that holiday planning that much easier. We have a range of hotel choices from 3, 4 to 5-star, and it's all independent travel, no groups, and it's all packaged and planned around your travel needs. It's all based on your independent requirements. The choice, as you see there, is yours. And finally, we book up to 2 years in advance. Now, everybody can travel again this year, even next year. Things are getting booked up, space is limited. So if you're looking to book in advance and guarantee that space and availability and those lower prices, we can book all the way through to the early summer of 2024. We offer a range of digital brochures as well on our website. The one you can see in the middle there, our AMTRAK vacations, rail holidays. A lot of the trips that we look at today will be within that particular brochure, but we also have our Railbookers worldwide independent brochure, which has all of our rail trips globally. We have UK and Scotland brochures. We have luxury brochures, cruise extensions. You name it, there's a brochure for it. You can have a look on our website and see which ones perhaps you'd like to download for yourselves to take a look at. We are a global company as well now. We have offices in the UK, Laguna Hills, Beverly in the US, Toronto in Canada, of course, and Sydney, Australia. What that means is that doesn't really matter what time of day it is or where you are in the world. If you give us a call, you should always be able to get through to somebody to assist you. And as you would imagine, we have direct rail partnerships with all the operators across Europe and North America. AMTRAK, you can see there, we'll be talking a lot about AMTRAK today, Via Rail in Canada. And then those main suppliers in Europe, Eurostar, of course, Deutsche Bahn in Germany, Renfe in Spain, to name just a few. And these partnerships and relationships allow us to make those recommendations or pass on those requests that you might have for your seating, perhaps. Also allows us to book those 2 years in advance. If you're looking to book yourselves, often you'll see that the rail is only available 3 to 6 months in advance. But with our partnerships, we're able to book, as we mentioned, up to 2 years out, which is a great benefit. Okay, so let's jump into our first holiday, jazz, blues, and rock and roll, a music holiday. Going from Chicago all the way through to New Orleans. This is a 9-night, 10-day trip. So 2 nights in Chicago, then there's 1 night on board the Amtrak service through to Memphis, 2 nights in Memphis, and then a day service down to New Orleans, finishing up with 3 nights in New Orleans. In Chicago, we include a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour. In Memphis, you have a city tour and admission to Graceland. And in New Orleans, you have a city tour and also a fantastic battlefield cruise on board a paddle wheel steamer. So as I mentioned, this starts in Chicago, and we do include that hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour, which covers all 13 miles of this amazing city. It really is the best way to be able to get around the city and visit all those top attractions and destinations. You've got the Skydeck Chicago, Navy Pier, of course, Millennium Park, where you see the famous architectural monument of the Bean. Check out the Crime Museum in Chicago. Chicago, very famous for its history of gangsters. John Dillinger, in particular, Public Enemy #1 was the phrase first coined for John Dillinger. I'd also recommend, if you're in Chicago, taking the architectural river cruise. You get to learn about the history of Chicago through its buildings and architecture on a trip down the river. It's one of the US's, not just Chicago's, one of the US's top attractions. Chicago, of course, very famous for its architecture. This is a fantastic additional tour if you'd like to add it on. So 2 nights to begin with in Chicago before traveling on to Memphis, the home of the blues, of course. So on your first day, you're going to get to enjoy a tour of Memphis. And as I mentioned, it includes a tour of the iconic Graceland as well. It's a fully guided, narrated tour that will take you around the whole of downtown Memphis, Beale Street, the Sun Studio, the mighty Mississippi, just some of the wonderful attractions you'll be able to visit on this narrated tour. And then it's off to Graceland in the afternoon. You'll be able to get up close and personal with all the things Elvis cherished most in the world and really get a glimpse of his life at Graceland. And then finally, you do get to stop in the famous meditation garden if you wish to see the final resting place of Elvis and his parents. So if there are any Elvis fans, Elvis buffs out there that are looking to travel through America and see Graceland, this is the perfect way to do it on one of our rail holidays. So after Chicago and Memphis, you finish up in New Orleans. You'll arrive into New Orleans quite late in the evening on your first night, which is why we give you 3 nights in New Orleans, so you get 2 full days. So after your first night in the hotel, you'll start your first morning with a jazz brunch, which is included at a very famous restaurant called the Court of Two Sisters. So you'll have brunch, and there'll be a jazz quartet actually playing and accompanying your brunch in the background. It's a real lovely way to start your time in New Orleans. And after that kind of leisurely morning, you'll then set off for your New Orleans city tour, which is included into the price of the holiday. You get to absorb the sights, sounds of the world famous French Quarter, of course, historic Jackson Square. You'll be taken to the historic cemeteries of New Orleans, often referred to as the cities of the dead as well. And you'll be talked through fascinating stories of voodoo and piracy on the Mississippi many, many years ago when pirates and bandits, most famously John Lafitte, used to rule the waterways. There's a really, really nice day tour with a bit of history thrown in as well. And on your second day, you get to enjoy a battlefield cruise, and you really get to take in those picturesque sights of New Orleans and the French Quarter from a real unique vantage point. You're on the outside deck of an old-fashioned paddle wheel steamer boat. So you get to take in these amazing views from the river. I've done this particular excursion myself. It's absolutely fantastic. The boat's captain is remarkable. He or she will entertain you with detailed narration of the New Orleans landmarks, history, the river, and you also get to disembark at the site of the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. Andrew Jackson fought in the Battle of New Orleans, went on, of course, to be American president, and you'll get to explore the battlefields, and you'll also get a narration of the battle as well and learn a bit more about the history of New Orleans. So fantastic couple of days in New Orleans to finish off this particular holiday. And there is the paddle wheel steamer lit up in all its glory on the Mississippi River one evening. Okay, our next holiday is the California Zephyr Rail Experience. This trip is very much based around the California Zephyr trip, the train that runs between Chicago and San Francisco, this incredibly scenic rail journey. So you have 2 nights on board the California Zephyr and 2 nights either side of the trip in Chicago and San Francisco. And just to mention, all of our trips, of course, can be customized. So if you'd like extra time in Chicago, San Francisco, you'd like to add on Los Angeles perhaps, or add on New York, you can do. We can customize our holidays to your liking if you wish, no problem there at all. But this trip is a 6-night, 7-day holiday, traveling between Chicago and San Francisco. So again, starts in Chicago. Chicago, very much the hub of AMTRAK. So a lot of our holidays will start with a night or 2 in Chicago, as this one does as well. And then it's off on board the California Zephyr. A really remarkable, magnificent experience on board the Zephyr. Undoubtedly America's most scenic train ride. You'll start by traveling across the Great Plains of America, then you'll enter the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, You'll come out of the Rocky Mountains and travel through breathtaking alpine scenery for a large part of that first day. On the second day, the mountains begin to recede. You go into the desert spaces of Utah. And then that afternoon and final evening, traveling through the picturesque Sierra Nevada mountains. You'll travel through 8 states, I believe, all the way through to California, finishing in San Francisco. So, as I say, one of the most scenic train rides in the world, really. Undoubtedly, I would say America's most scenic train ride. And you finish off in San Francisco. We do include, again, a hop-on, hop-off pass that you can use at your disposal to take in all those fantastic points of interest in San Francisco: Golden Gate Park, Union Square. We also include a dinner at one of the most popular restaurants on San Francisco's famous Pier 39. If you're into your activities, San Francisco is a perfect city to explore by bicycle. You can actually cycle over the Golden Gate Bridge to a city called Sausalito, stop for some lunch overlooking the bay. And of course, they've got Alcatraz. I suppose no trip to San Francisco would be complete without seeing Alcatraz. If you are looking to add on the Alcatraz tour, though, we do ask that you do it in advance because it's very difficult to get any availability at Alcatraz while you're there. You have to book that up in advance. So that's our California Zephyr trip there, Chicago to San Francisco through that magical ride on the Zephyr. Next, we're going to look at our Rocky Mountains to Arches and Canyonlands trip with the Rocky Mountaineer. Okay, again, out of Chicago. This is an 8-day holiday, 7-night, 8-day trip. Again, featuring breathtaking scenery through some of America's most majestic settings. The Rocky Mountains, 2 other fantastic national parks, Arches and Canyonlands, and you've got to take on some of the most scenic train routes from the California Zephyr to the Rocky Mountaineer as well. So you've got to get that additional luxury on this trip of the Rocky Mountaineer. So this trip starts in Denver. We base you out of Denver because it's the easiest place for you to be able to access the Rocky Mountain National Park. So you'll take the day trip to the Rocky Mountain National Park out of Denver, but you will have a bit of time to explore Denver yourself as well. Denver, very famous for a lot of museums, art galleries. Has the Denver Art Museum, which is right in downtown Denver, and has one of the largest Native American art collections in the world. So a lot of things to do in Denver. Also very famous for its craft beers as well, if you're into that. So you can enjoy a couple of evenings in the bars and restaurants numbering some craft beers after you've wandered around some of the art galleries of Denver. But as I mentioned earlier, you do get to experience luxury on this trip as well. So we have a Rocky Mountaineer, a 2-day trip on the Rocky Mountaineer between Denver and Glenwood Springs, and Glenwood Springs and Moab. So you'll be able to settle into your luxurious accommodation on board and just relax and soak up that spectacular scenery on one of the most beautiful train trips in North America. We'll travel through snow-capped mountains, the Rocky Mountains, again, as you go through to Glenwood Springs. The train, as you can see, has huge panoramic windows for you to absorb all that scenery. Meals are served on board to your seats. You have a knowledgeable and friendly crew who will talk you through the history, the wildlife, the scenery, and answer any questions that you may have. Definitely one of the most luxurious rail experiences anywhere in the world, the Rocky Mountaineer. So to be able to do this in the US and travel between some of those fantastic national parks on the Rocky Mountaineer really is a bit of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. As I mentioned, we do include the Rocky Mountaineer National Park, a day trip out to the Rocky Mountains from Denver. Even before you reach the national park itself, you'll have passed historic towns, beautiful landscapes. You'll have seen the Rocky Mountains. The Denver itself has the backdrop of the Rocky Mountains for you to marvel at whilst you're there. And then once you actually reach the national park itself, you'll have a fully guided tour. Come face to face, hopefully with a variety of wildlife. There's elk, deer, moose, eagles, black bear, perhaps. And you'll get to witness Colorado's famous Continental Divide as well. So a really fantastic day trip out to the spectacular Rocky Mountain National Park. And if that wasn't enough, you do also get to see two other spectacular national parks in the US. So we base you in Moab for a couple of days, and from there you'll have a full day tour of two other national parks, Arches and Canyonlands. So the Arches National Park you can see here, this really is a geological treasure. It features over 2,000 natural sandstone arches, the most famous being called the Delicate Arch. You can see here the park's got rich colours, textures, different landforms that highlight these extraordinary balanced rocks and pinnacles. And Canyonlands National Park, as you'll see here, has a stunning landscape with countless different canyons and ridges carved out by the Colorado River. You also get to take a guided scenic drive around the rim and around the ridges that offer the incredible views. It's known as the island in the sky when you reach the top of the drive. It gives you a fantastic vantage point from which to observe the Canyonlands National Park in all its glory. So this really is a wonderful holiday. Lots of scenery, national parks, California Zephyr, and the luxury, of course, of the Rocky Mountain. Okay, if you're looking for something a bit shorter and perhaps looking to see two or three cities, and of course some spectacular views of the Niagara Falls, we have a Washington, New York, and Niagara Falls trip for you. So 3 nights in Washington, D.C., 3 nights in New York, 2 nights in Niagara, all day services on the train, so no overnight trips here. So if you're looking to spend the majority of your time in destinations, this is a perfect trip perhaps for you on the East Coast of the US. As always, we include hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tours, city passes, adventure passes. In all of our holidays, we try and pack as much in as possible. We know that your time is very precious while you're there. We want to include as many skip-the-line tours and passes as we can, so you don't have to worry too much about what to do and what to see. The choice is yours, and you don't have to worry about queuing either. You know, a lot of these landmarks that you're going to visit, if you don't have these passes or you don't have these skip-the-line entrances, then you can spend half your day in queues. So in all of our holidays, you'll notice that we offer a lot of city passes and entries, and also those hop-on, hop-off bus tours, which act as your transportation, your free transportation across the city. So we start this one in Washington, D.C., as I mentioned, with a hop-on, hop-off tour. That'll get you to many of the major landmarks, the National Archives, Capitol Hill, the Ford Theater, the White House, of course. And also it'll give you time to visit some of the, perhaps if you're into that kind of thing, the Smithsonian museums that Washington's so famous for, the American History Museum, the Institute of Art, the Air and Space Museum as well. We also include a guided tour of the city's most popular monuments by night. So you'll get to see the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Memorial, Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, the Vietnam War Memorial, all spectacularly illuminated against the backdrop of the night sky. It's one of the most popular tours, and it's included in this holiday for you. Then it's off to New York. So you'll depart Washington Union Station in the morning, travel north up to New York. You'll have 3 nights, 2 full days in New York. We include a city pass for you. That'll give you admission to the Rockefeller Plaza, the top of the rock, Museum of Natural History, 9/11 Memorial and Museum as well, Empire State Building, Metropolitan Museum of Art. We also include a 48-hour multi-day 48-hour hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour. That'll take you to Central Park, Times Square, Brooklyn Bridge, Guggenheim Museum, Fifth Avenue, I suppose, if you want a bit of shopping as well. So again, New York, lots to see and do in New York. Quite a big city, of course, to get around. We include all these entrances for you and your transport across the city, so you can make the most of your 2 days in New York. And then finally, it's off to Niagara Falls. You'll have 1 full day to experience Niagara Falls. You have an attraction pass, which is included, which gives you access to the caverns and tunnels underneath the falls. It's known as the journey behind the falls. Also includes a cruise, of course, that will take you right up to the falls itself. And we do have a pass, a transport pass included that'll get you around the Niagara area itself. You can go to the little village of Niagara if you wish. And if you do have a head for heights, I would highly recommend a helicopter tour over the falls for the very best view. It's an absolutely jaw-dropping experience, something that I've been lucky enough to do myself. And the picture, as you can see here, is taken from that helicopter ride, and you can just imagine what the experience and views are like on board a helicopter above the falls. Okay, and finally, we're going to look at our coast-to-coast across the USA trip. This really is an extravaganza, a 15-night, 16-day trip. You get to experience some of America's greatest cities, as well as the majestic Grand Canyon. You'll travel starting New York through to Chicago. You'll get to travel on the California Zephyr, as I mentioned, the Grand Canyon, and all the way through to LA and San Francisco. And this starts with 3 nights in New York. Everything that you see here, New York, Washington, Chicago, everything we mentioned in the previous holidays is included. Hop on, hop off, your city passes, all included in this trip as well. This starts in New York, and it's Washington, Chicago, and it's the California Zephyr through to Williams, where you'll get to experience the Grand Canyon Railway all the way through to the Grand Canyon itself. So the Grand Canyon Railway has been running since 1901. It's been taking passengers on what's now, I suppose, a fabled journey right into the heart of the Grand Canyon. It's more than just a mode of transportation. It really is kind of a trip back in time. They've really lovingly restored the rail cars. When you're on board, there'll be entertaining musicians playing music back in the 30s. And you'll also get to see cowboys. If you look out your window, there'll be reenactments of cowboy battles and cowboys on horses. So they really want to take you back to the Wild West as well. And of course, looking out of your window, the terrain will change from deserts to prairies to pines. It's a real ever-changing view until you reach the best view of them all, the Grand Canyon itself. So it really is a fantastic way to travel to the Grand Canyon, and the most popular way for sure for any of our guests to reach the Grand Canyon, that's for sure. And then, of course, you get to see the Grand Canyon. Speaks for itself, really. There's not a huge amount, I suppose, I have to say about the Grand Canyon. You get a fully guided tour of the Grand Canyon region, of course. There'll be multiple picture-taking, photo-taking opportunities for you. Lunch is included, and you get a full tour of the Grand Canyon, and of course some time yourself to explore one of the 7 wonders of the natural world. And then it's on to LA. So you will have a full day to explore LA and Hollywood and its glamour. Again, we have a hop on, hop off tour of the city for you to help you explore. You've got the Hollywood signs, Santa Monica Beach, the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Bit of a contrast to the Grand Canyon, but a lovely way, to spend a couple of days in LA, and then you'll finish off with those 3 nights in San Francisco. Okay, so let's also have a little look at what life is like on board Amtrak before we finish up today. So here's your observation car. Okay, you've got these fantastic, these swivel seats. And these panoramic windows that allow you to take in the breathtaking scenery. This will be on board the California Zephyr. I mean, it's the perfect way to travel across America. It really is. It's so relaxing. It's so scenic. You can get to chat and mingle with your fellow passengers. You take a book on board, take a glass of wine, and spend the day relaxing and just enjoying the views as they go by. There aren't enough seats in the observation cars for everybody on board, so they do ask, of course, that people only spend maybe 2 or 3 hours at a time and let others enjoy the views as well. But as we'll see later on, if you're in the roomettes or the bedrooms, you've also got these picture windows from the comfort of your cabins for you to enjoy the views as well. So there are 3 different levels of accommodation on board Amtrak. You've got coach, roomette, and bedroom. Coach is just coach seating. So it's just standard class, as we would call it in the UK. We advise coach for any of the daytime services. For the overnight trips, the majority of people, as you can imagine, will upgrade to either the roomette or the bedroom. But if people are looking for the most economical option, you can book coach for those overnight trips as well. These seats do recline. They don't recline all the way back, but they're relatively comfortable. You do get a blanket as well. So if you're looking for the most economical option, you can book coach seating for the overnight journeys. Just to mention, though, none of your meals are included with coach, so you do have to pay for them in addition to your ticket prices. The most popular option, though, for these overnight journeys is the roomette accommodation. So this is a private 2-berth cabin with a locked door and a picture window, as you can see. By day, the beds will lower down to form 2 sofas opposite each other, and then of night they'll fold up to form 2 bunks. As you can see, it's relatively compact in there. There's no toilet and shower, of course. It's a bit too small for that. The toilets and showers are shared within the carriage with those other occupants of the roomettes. There's usually 4 or 5 roomettes on each level. A lot of these AMTRAK services are double-decker. So if you're happy enough to share a bathroom and toilet facilities, but you would like the privacy of your own room, the roomette is the way to go. And as soon as you upgrade to any of the sleeping accommodation on board AMTRAK, you do get your meals included as well. The top level of accommodation on board is called the bedroom. This picture is taken from the bathroom of the bedroom, so you can see it's a lot more spacious. It's still bunks. There is no option on AMTRAK there for a double bed. It is still bunks in the bedroom, but you do have a lounge area there as well, and you do have your own private bathroom, toilet and shower there for you. So if you're somebody that does require your own private bathroom, then the bedroom is the way to go. If you're happy just to walk a few feet down the corridor and share a toilet and shower with your fellow passengers, then the roomette perhaps is the way to go, and the roomette, of course, is more affordable than the bedroom. What I would say for both roomettes and bedrooms is they do book up extremely quickly on board AMTRAK, especially on the most popular routes like the California Zephyr. So if you are looking to travel to the US and you want to do an overnight journey in one of the sleeping accommodations, I would advise looking to book 4 to 6 months in advance minimum. That doesn't mean that if you're looking to travel closer, we can't find you space and availability, but there'll be far more options for you the earlier out that you book. Picture of the bedroom here with the seats folded down by day, and again you've got that picture window that I mentioned earlier, and another view of the observation carriage here, looking quite sparse actually. That chap seems to have the entire carriage to himself. Very lucky. That doesn't happen too often, believe me, but again, some of the spectacular scenery from these big windows that you'll have on board the trains. And then finally, just to take a look at the dining carriage as well. So as I mentioned, once you upgrade to the sleeping accommodation, you do get all your food, your breakfast, lunch and dinner included on board, depending, of course, what time of day you're traveling. The food is very, very good on board AMTRAK. It's all freshly prepared on board. You get starter, main, dessert, a la carte menu, meat, a fish and a veg option. It's also a fantastic way to socialize and meet your fellow travelers should you wish. If you do want a table of just to be on your own table of 2, they can organize that for you. Quite often people like to sit, in a table of 4 with other couples perhaps, and talk about stories of their travels and learn about their different experiences and where they're traveling to. So it's a really nice way to socialize on board as well and meet your fellow guests. But as I say, the food is included with those sleeping accommodations, and the quality of the food is very, very good indeed. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch. I do hope that perhaps we've managed to inspire you, as I mentioned earlier, to take a trip over to the US and explore this fantastic country by rail. If there's anything that we've missed, if you haven't seen destinations that you were keen on, please take a look on our website. We've got hundreds of different options for you on our AMTRAK Vacations and Railbookers websites, or just give us a call. Don't hesitate to pick up the phone and give one of our travel consultants a call, and they'll be more than happy to talk you through the options that we have that fit your criteria. So again, thank you ever so much once again. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.